In this video, I want to actually show you the list of books I want you to use in this literacy assignment I have for you, where I'm asking you to sort of spend time trying to learn how to be a lifelong reader. Primarily in nonfiction narrative. What I mean by that is the book is not a textbook. It's not an academic collection of case studies. It's a narrative. It's a story. It's an explanation. Now, it doesn't necessarily have a plot per se, but it has an historical unfolding of events that is true. So if you want to, for example, learn about Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes, the book that you should read is Bad Blood. And that is an incredible slice of history, dealing on a very micro scale, but could be expanded because it's ambition, it's greed, it's misunderstanding, it's things like that, entrepreneurship. Or you can expand it to say something like The Great Influenza, which is a book by John Barry, which is a much larger book, and it looks at a much bigger and impactful event, the Great Flu of 1918, Spanish influenza. So, yes, you're learning dates and items and things, but it's coming to you woven together by a good writer. So it helps in having that at play because you remember it longer. We remember that sort of weaving as opposed to so many data bits coming at you sort of as raindrops in a storm, and they hit the ground, they flow away. I mean, how do we collect all of those? But if it comes to you in a steady stream right at you, right, and you can manage it, it's a life-giving force. It's very important for memory and for growth, personal growth, way past your college years. Okay, so let's get started. I have two stacks. One I'm going to show you right here. The other stack is a virtual stack because I'll read the titles to you and I'll provide this list to you somehow. But you'll need to then, using the titles, Google the book online, take a look at it, see if you want to experiment with it or look through it. And then with that second list of books, I'll ask you to pick one to listen to as an audiobook. So you'll be dealing with audio files there. The first act, which I'm going to get involved with right now, I'll ask you to actually find a way to check out the physical book. Okay. Now my challenge to you is to do this without spending a single dollar. Okay. I'm not asking you to buy another textbook, and I'm not asking you to go and buy an audio file from Audible or some other place. No, I'm asking you, as I've already emphasized this, to make sure that your library accounts are up and running, public library, local library, school library, and find a way to get the library to get you a handheld copy of one of these books and an audio copy of another book. Now for the audio copy, you might have to download on your phone an app that's going to read that copy. But when you get a well-functioning app and a good book with a professional reader that just nails the narrative, it might be an acquired taste, but it is a unique experience. So I know audio narrators by name. Well, I don't know them, but I can tell you my top three. For example, if there's a book read by Grover Gardner, I'm going to listen to him just because of the audiobook reader. He's so good. So anyway, let's get started. All right, these books right here. They're 8 in this stack and 8 in the other one. And this one, I can just hold up to you and try to get it arranged right and talk about them. And for these 8, I want you to pick 1 or 2 or 3 and get the library to send you a handheld copy of these, and then look through them and find the one that you want to continue reading. Say no to a boring book. Okay, your life is too short to really spend a lot of time with boring things. Don't read a boring book. Put it back. Get another one. But give the book a chance. You might need to get 10 pages in before the story starts gripping you. But if you get 20 and there's still no connection, I think you would look at another one. All right. So this is called White Man's Game: Saving Animals, Rebuilding Eden, and Other Myths of Conservation in America. If that's a concern to you, you like zoology, animals, ecology, conservation, this is a great book. And it explores also how nonprofits sort of milk the system, or non-government organizations, to present a narrative to, say, Americans way over here. The Americans give their dollars, and only maybe 10% gets back to that park in any meaningful way in Africa. Very good book. Learned a lot. Okay, another book you might be interested in is How to Feed a Dictator. Doesn't that title right there just make you want to kind of read this book? The dictators that are looked at here are Saddam Hussein, Idi Amin, and Hoxha, Fidel Castro, and Pol Pot. So the title is How to Feed a Dictator Through the Eyes of Their Cooks. So this author interviewed the cooks of these dictators to find out what it was like working in the kitchen for these people. Entertaining, and I learned a ton. I learned a ton about different places of the world, different parts of history, and just, of course, after reading this, I'm no expert in Fidel Castro, but I got interested in Cuba, and I looked at some more books on Cuba, and that's how my knowledge about that grew a little bit. All right, so next, Deep by James Nestor. Free Diving, Renegade Science, and What the Ocean Tells Us About Ourselves. An incredible book. I learned a lot about the circulatory system, about our lungs, what happens when you're under deep water pressure, what sort of levels are to the ocean. I'll read this one again and again. So this was a good book. All right, now if you're into nutrition, food, that sort of thing, I think that you should know this staple: Pandora's Lunchbox. How processed food took over the American meal. And a lot of these books, I could have made a list of 50, but I picked books that I thought, I really enjoyed reading those. Some I read because I kind of enjoy it and I learn a lot, but others I learn and I just enjoy them because of the writing style and the craft, the word craft of the author. And so these books, to me, were books I want to share with you because I know that once I started them, it was very hard to put them down. So that's kind of the book I want us to use here, because if you're kind of struggling with whole, I got to read another book thing, that sort of book might actually really be a good thing for you, right? Because you might begin to look forward to it as the thing you want to do when it comes to studying and reading, because the book was so good. Well, anyway, Pandora's Lunchbox. There we go. All right. This one looks at it looks at travel and geography and culture, and it scales well because it looks at culture in the individual train line, people in that train as it moves through a country, and it also looks at the country at large. So this Zollner actually rode 6 of the most famous rail lines, and he writes about them. And it's called Train: Riding the Rails That Created the Modern World. From the Trans-Siberian to the Southwest Chief. Oh yeah, I remember what he said about the Southwest Chief. Yeah, so I read this book twice, I think maybe 3 times, because the audio version is incredible. Incredible. The reader there, I'm assuming there's only one audio version. But anyway, okay, this one is Bottlemania. How Water Went on Sale and Why We Bought It. And it's been about 3 years since I've read this book. I read it twice, but I still remember the watersheds in Maine, the local towns that were going crazy about Nestle buying out the water and shipping it out. A sad book, but it's happened. And water is going to be an incredible commodity that we're going to have to think more carefully about in terms of valuing it and porting it to people, transporting it to people, sharing it. Bottle Mania, how water went on sale and why we bought it. Again, notice the size of these books. These really aren't that big. They're under, most of them are under 300 pages, and they're going to read very well. Oh yes, Disrupted. So, sorry for the glare there. I don't know how to really fix that, but there we go. My Misadventure in the Startup Bubble by Dan Lyons. Wow, I don't even know how to introduce this one. That's just, you're going to have to get it to believe it. He wrote another book called Lab Rats, which was the follow-up to this one. Incredible. But this one was his breakthrough book. And, oh my, what a book that was. So he was a writer, got fired because his company was closing down their print newspaper. So he was out of work. And he just got a job at a startup tech company and couldn't believe what was going on. Disrupted, my misadventure in the startup bubble. And then this one is a bit larger, but the chapters are self-contained. So each chapter is its own little exploration into the arena. Inside the tailgating, ticket scalping, mascot racing, dubiously funded, and possibly haunted monuments of American sports. A long title, but the publishers knew what they were doing. And they invested in that title because it just makes you want to read it, doesn't it? And the stuff from here, this was a thoroughly enjoyable book. So if nothing else, you know, if you get a hold of one of these books, I picked them. Of course, you know, I could be wrong when it comes to you and your tastes, but I'm kind of banking that any one of these books has the potential to grab your attention. All right, now these 8, I want you to go ahead and try to get a handheld copy of one of these, okay? And get them through your local library, get them through the school library. Now, very, very often, local libraries will join forces and form a consortium or a network. And so, you know, if you can't get it through that specific library, your library card might actually be the doorway into a constellation of libraries, maybe 5 or 6, that you can just, local libraries that you can just check out a book from, and it gets shipped to you for free. It gets brought to your library, and then you pick it up from your local library. Now it depends on what state you're in. So, you know, right now in this moment, I'm teaching these classes in Ohio, but you know very well I could be in another state, you could be in another state. You can be taking this remotely, all that sort of stuff. So, you know, I don't know how your state does it, but I've been in states where they do libraries very well. I mean, they don't really take care of the roads, but they take care of their libraries. And so, for example, here in Ohio, there's Search Ohio, which is an agreement of hundreds of public libraries across the state of Ohio to share their resources and to ship them to your local library. So I'm a member of a library who's a member of Search Ohio, and I can get a book from Cleveland, from Toledo, from you know, from all over. Now, of course, it'll take a couple days to get here, but I have a huge public library that I'm actually involved in, right? Because when you think of that as your public library, it's statewide. The colleges and universities in Ohio also have agreed to share their academic resources through what's called Ohio Link. So Ohio Link is an agreement with over 100 colleges and universities to share their libraries, their film libraries, their music libraries, their books and journals. So, you know, you might be in a situation where your state has a sharing program like that, and that's what you need to find out for your library. Your college library, your public library, you need to figure out just how many resources are at your beck and call. Because if you're serious about growing as a thinker, as a critical thinker, as a person of knowledge, you need to be involved with your libraries. You just do. And you need to know what they offer you in terms of databases, in terms of interlibrary loan, in terms of media services. So go to it, okay? And again, my challenge to you is do not spend a dime. Get these through your library, because I want to see you use your libraries. Whether it's a public library, a consortium, a network, a statewide collection of libraries, the school library, whatever, okay? So now this part of the assignment is straight up for points, so be sure to do that, okay? I'm going to talk to you about audiobooks in a little bit. That's going to be the next video, and that will be for bonus points.